Yeah, good morning. So today's topic for self-learning is memory operations. Now I would like to share my screen. So memory operations. So when we are performing any of these operations, so what are the different types of operations which we can perform related to this memory? So that is what we are going to discuss in this self-learning topic. So the objectives of this self-learning topic is so this session will develop the students' knowledge in memory operations such as read and write operations. So these are the two important operations that we are going to discuss in this particular self-learning discussion topic. So generally, when we consider the computer's memory, when we consider the computer's memory, so within this computer's memory, the program instructions, the program instructions as well as the data will be stored. Okay, so program instructions as well as the data will be stored in the computer's memory. So when we want to execute any instruction, for example, if you want to execute an instruction, like suppose if you want to load some register R2 with some memory location whose address is represented with LOC, for example. So what it does is that if you want to execute this particular instruction, so circuit, the processor control circuit must execute this instruction. To execute this instruction, it requires that the data from the memory has to be fetched. So if you are considering this is the main memory of the computer, so this is suppose it is having some value 100 in the location address in the main memory. So then it has to issue the processor circuit control circuit has to issue a instruction to transfer the data from this memory location, which is pointed by this LOC. Okay, so that is we requires to transfer the data from the memory to the processor registers. Sometimes you want to transfer the data from the processor register to the memory. So that is the reason here the operands which are specified in the instruction and the results of that particular operands must be moved between the memory and the processor registers. Okay, the operands values as well as the results whatever we computed, that requires the movement of data between the memory and the processor registers. So thus when we want to move the data from the memory and the processor registers, so there are two important basic operations which we require to perform in the memory, so which we are called as memory operations, and the two important operations which are named as read and write operations. So these are the two important memory operations which we are going to discuss, so that these two operations are used for transferring of the data between the memory and the processors. Now, how the read operation will be performed by the processor. So the purpose of this read operation is to transfer the contents of a particular memory location to the processor, either to a processor register or to a operand which is available in the processor. Okay, so that means from memory location to the processor. When you want to transfer the data from the memory location to the processor, so we are going to use a read operation. So the read operation transfer the data from the memory location to the processor. So in the processor we have seen there are different types of registers are there, processor registers are there, some general purpose registers, some like R1, R2 and so on, Rn general purpose registers will be there, and there are some special purpose registers, generally call it as program counter, instruction register, etc. So the read operation purpose is to transfer the data from the memory location. It is very important, the data is transferred from the memory location to the processor registers. Okay, the memory contents are not changed. Okay, the data is transferred from memory location to the processor register, so the contents of the memory will not be changed here. So the processor sends the address of the desired location to the memory. The processor sends the address of the desired location, memory address location, it will send, so that the memory reads the data stored at that address and sends them back to the processor. So this is how the read operation will be done. Okay, first processor will send the memory address from which memory location it wants to read. It will send that memory location, desired memory location address, it will send that as a request, and then the read operation will read the data and that particular data which is available at that particular address and sends back to the processor. That is what the read operation is. The next second important operation, memory operation, is write operation. So that means when we want to write the data into the memory, that is the processor wanted to write the data into the memory. So here the memory location value may change here. So the write operation transfers an item of information from the processor to a specific memory location. So overwriting the former contents of that location. That means here the memory location value may change here. So this is what the processor will perform this write operation. So the processor will send the address of the desired location to the memory together with the data to be written into that location. So the processor sends the memory location address at which the data it want to write. So memory location address followed by the data, both it will send to the memory, and then the memory unit it will perform the write operation so that the data will be overwritten at the specified address. So this is what the write operation is. So these are the two important operations which we can call it as memory operations, read and write. Fine. So that is what the self-learning topic discussion for today. So after completion of this lecture, you are able to apply the read and write operations. So how you can use this read and write operations in writing the machine instructions. So that is this outcome of this today's self learning topic discussion. Okay, so thank you one and all.